Mark my words, and I hate to say it, but I'm making the big prediction right now. I'm sounding the alarm. I'm screaming from the rooftops. And I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is that you're getting a heads up and you'll have some time to prepare. The bad news is that it's actually happening. It's imminent. It's a mathematical certainty, and it's going to affect absolutely everyone. This is global, and keep in mind that I am from the United States. I'm filming this on May 27th, 2022. This will definitely affect the Western world, but it's going to affect the global population as a whole. The cost of everything is about to skyrocket, far more so than it already has, and there are going to be food shortages throughout the world, the likes of which are going to be straight up horrifying, and it's already underway. I am sounding the alarm. Like I said, it's late May, but this is going to become apparent for all who have eyes to see in the next, let's say, month. By the end of June, and certainly by the end of July, you will start to see that there are many products that you'll struggle to be able to purchase because they won't be available, and the cost of everything will continue to go up far more so than it already has. Now, there are a variety of reasons why all of this is happening, and I'm convinced that it's not happenstance. Now, between $30 trillion in debt, which is so astronomically high because that's all they've done. They just printed. That eventually leads to inflation, the cost of everything increasing. But there's another factor, which is the cost of fuel. Everything we purchase is shipped by, whether it be truck, train, or automobile or airplane. Everything runs on fuel. So as the cost of fuel goes up, everything goes up. And none of this is, I don't think it's an accident, but let me just tell you what's already happened. The very fact that Joe Biden on day one canceled the Keystone Pipeline, which that in itself should have said everything. Day one, cancel us from being able to drill our own oil. And even in the last few days, I'm seeing senators out of Alaska talking about how their land lease to drill under their own ground was just mysteriously canceled and is going to expire in June. Canceled by the Biden administration. This has never happened before, guys. What is that about? And the fallout of it is going to be extreme. Also, the cancellation of the petrodollar. If you're not aware, the global currency of trading oil is done in the US dollar. It's been done so since like 1978 under President Nixon. But long story short, that's done with now. And you are now seeing that in itself is going to have a dire impact, and it already is, because now you're seeing the Russian ruble, the firm of currency, skyrocket. Like, all of this, guys, was going to happen. True economists or experts in the economy understood this, yet the whole media is just radio silent on like, oh, well, this is just incompetence or something. Guys, this is not incompetence. But never mind my conspiratorial, insinuations here. Don't believe anything I have to say. Research this stuff. So inflation through the roof, oil through the roof, and now food shortages, which are coming from a variety of reasons. So you've heard a lot of things about the Ukraine fiasco and how wheat and everything is grown there. Well, the United States doesn't get their wheat from Ukraine or anything for that matter, but a lot of the rest of the world does. And that wheat is not only used to feed people, it's also used to feed farm animals. So that in itself is creating a double whammy on that front. Now, if you're not seeing what's happening in Sri Lanka, you should look it up, because this is what's going to happen in many other places, and soon. Practically overnight, they made a law that says all food must be grown organically. Fertilizers are now outlawed. Well, this gave farmers no time to prepare, and they said it would take at least a year. Well, they didn't do that. Hence why there's a massive food shortage. Now, I like to eat organic as much as I can, but the reality is that having nearly 8 billion people on this planet, you cannot feed everybody if you're not using fertilizer, at least as of today. And yet they're overnight changing this up. Now go look at the riots happening in Sri Lanka, because that's what's going to happen elsewhere. Okay, also, a complete supply chain disaster. If you're not aware of what was happening in Shanghai with the lockdowns for the last couple months, it's mortifying. But in that process, you had more than 1,000 tankers, cargo ships, parked offshore, unable to load or unload because of these lockdowns. Well, those 1,000 ships contain absolutely everything under the sun. And it's going to create a supply chain nightmare, the likes of which we've never seen. There's something called the bullwhip effect, which is where you have a hiccup in supply chain. It takes about 60 days for things to carry over in some circumstances, at least globally. So that is why I am predicting that by the end of June, and let's say by the end of July, certainty, you will see the effects of this. And it's already happening. Like, I was just trying to buy underwear on Amazon, my favorite pair, I won't tell you what. And I couldn't find it in my size. Same thing with white undershirts. Couldn't find any of them. It's been like this for some time. And so everything we saw happen because of COVID and all the lockdowns, things shutting down, all of a sudden you can't get things like you used to. And the prices go up for things that are available, right? You're about to witness that even worse now, okay? Like, this is a recipe of a perfect storm of things that are happening all at once. And by the way, if this monkeypox thing becomes a real issue, if this becomes like the next global pandemic or whatever, so to speak, you will have lockdowns throughout the world longer than they were with COVID. Like, if this monkeypox thing is the real deal, it has a 2 to 3 week incubation period before you have any symptoms. And then once you have symptoms, they can last 2 to 4 weeks. In other words, you will have lockdowns the likes of which do not compare to COVID. And with all these things happening all at once throughout the world, you will have the economic disaster, which I fear is coming. In fact, I think it's coming regardless of the monkeypox thing. The powers that be in this world are telling us it's going to happen. You have Biden in the World Economic Forum saying that food shortages are coming. They're talking about transitioning to a digital currency in the future, and that there's, the Great Reset, which was once called a conspiracy like 2 years ago, year and a half ago, is now fact. You can read about it in Time magazine. They're open about it. This isn't some nonsense. The World Economic Forum is actively saying it, and now I'm seeing the Biden administration saying almost everything that the World Economic Forum is saying. Add these things together, do your own research, but the end result is suffering for everybody. That there is going to be changes in our normal lives where you didn't want to believe was possible in our lifetimes, and it shouldn't be happening. I'm convinced this is not happenstance. But regardless, between the food shortages, between the cost of everything going up, between supply chain issues, all of this is going to become, in my opinion, the leading story in the next month or two. Right now is the calm before the storm, and this gives you the opportunity to prepare, like I've done. Not everyone is going to be able to afford to do what I'm about to suggest, but if you can, I highly recommend it, which is that you buy things in bulk that you know that you're going to need forever, whether it be toilet paper, Kleenex, socks and underwear, your favorite toothpaste or deodorant, anything you can think of. The cost of all of everything is going to skyrocket. Whatever the reasons, and because people will debate this. I've already made some various comments on things happening in the world, and people can debate all they want. Never mind the debate part. The reality is that the cost is going to continue to go up, right? So which means that you'd be better off buying things in bulk and buying things that you may not be able to get in the future. Back in March 14th of 2020, I made a video predicting things to come. And it turned out I was right about several of them, one of which was the purchasing panic. I predicted that before that became a headline in the news. I saw on social media that people were buying things up like toilet paper and other things, and some people thought that was silly at the time. But I'm like, well, it doesn't matter if it's silly. Everyone's doing it, and you do not want to be last, right? We all saw what happened. So now is your time to jump on it. And by the way, I'm not spreading fear, guys. A few people are going to see this throughout the world. Half my audience is international, and it doesn't matter. Like, they need to hear it. Fear or not, like, this is reality. And it reminds me of I use this analogy. By the way, I shared this 5 days ago on my Patreon, Subscribestar, and Locals. Follow me there. Guys, you can't share everything on YouTube nowadays, but now I'm making more of an edited version for here. But I made an example. It sounds kind of silly, but I think it's very applicable. We've all seen the movie Titanic. And there's a scene after they hit the iceberg where the officers, the engineers, and captain, they all met, and they were discussing, like, oh my God, it's gone over, 5 bulkheads. It's definitely going to sink. It's a certainty. And that fool was like, oh, this is the Titanic can't sink. And the guy's like, it's made of iron. I assure you it can. It's a mathematical certainty. That's what this is. Like, enough things have happened, and if you understand how supply chain works, you'll understand the fallout that will come from it. And there's no reason to think that it's not going to happen. Like, we all want to believe it and be like, oh, just kind of hide under the covers and hopefully the problem goes away. That's not happening in this situation. Bad times are ahead, and this is not a doom and gloom video. I am optimistic that the future is bright and that in the long term, good will prevail, but right now, some dire times are ahead. Now, that said, good comes from everything. In the face of evil and suffering, the best times are possible. And this is an opportunity for people to shine and be their best. Some people will be the worst. But the reality is that, look, I hate to say it, but it's like that strongest survive thing. There was many people who ridiculed me for my video in March of 2020 saying like, hey, go buy stuff. People like, this isn't true and you're spreading fear and you're going to make it worse. Well, I didn't run out of toilet paper and others did. And I'm not gloating. I'm simply saying that I do spend a lot of time researching things. And although I'm speaking off the cuff in this video and not piecing together a presentation like I normally do, I don't really feel like it. This makes me depressed and bothered. And I'm working on my next video on Atlantis, which should be super fascinating, by the way. And I'm also going to Miami next weekend. You're welcome to come. I'm going with Phil Demers, the Walrus Whisperer, doing a demonstration outside Miami Sea Aquarium. All good things. And I can't wait to move on to positive stuff. But the reality, guys, is that things are about to change unbelievably quickly. It's imminent and it's going to be readily apparent in the next couple months, and it's going to continue to get worse over the next few years until ultimately the US dollar completely crashes and the powers that be get to implement their digital currency, which is what they're saying they're going to do. That's the path forward. Oh man, I know it sucks hearing all this, guys, but I'm sounding the alarm. I know it's imminent. I'd rather not make this video at all, but I have a responsibility with the following that I do. Not everyone's going to listen to this video, so I encourage you to share it with others, or at least, if nothing else, do your own research and communicate it to whoever will listen, because it's happening whether you like it or not. The reasons it's happening are debatable, and I didn't include everything. There's other things to share, but regardless, here we are. My name's Jimmy Corsetti. My channel's called Bright Insight. Hit the like button, subscribe. I have many videos to come. Follow me on Patreon, Subscribestar, and Locals if you're able to support me there. That will enable me to be able to speak truth and share things on platforms that allow it. I know Patreon's shady, but like I'll be there as long as they let me. But anyways, I'll close this up. Thank you all for your time. Good luck, and remember, like, embrace a positive mentality. Go outside, pet your dog, tell people you love them. Like, the world is what we make of it, and there are things happening beyond our control, but you can still find light in the face of darkness. I know it. I'll close it up there. Take care, everybody.